Jason is an amazing songwriter, writing music in multiple genres: rock, R&B, pop, country, southern, indie, sports, holiday movie, and TV themes. He was born and raised in Minneapolis. He got his first guitar at 13. He went on to start his cover band, Jaded Rock Band. He learned a lot about music during those 12 years. Then the gift to write happened in 2013. He has now gone on to write dozens of songs, working with his agent, Ray Hamilton, at Song Placement Pros, Smith Curry Session Team in Nashville, and his co-producer, Owen Sartori, at F5 Soundhouse in Minneapolis. He finally has enough music produced for multiple records and over 40 singles. He has had lots of interest and hold from movie, TV, and big artists. He hopes to get all his music produced in the next few years and hopefully go on tour as a rock country band.
Here we are. You're on the Mental Margarita show, and we're so excited because the audience is going to get to hear your music. We're actually getting to feature your music on 2 shows, not just the Second Opinion Sports Show in North Carolina, but also the Mental Margarita show here in Las Vegas. We're so excited about that. So tell us a little bit about kind of where it all began. You picked up a guitar at the age of 12. How is it? Where are you originally from?
I'm from Minneapolis. I was born and raised there. I lived there for 54 years. And then I decided to move to New Mexico and get into some better weather because, winters are nasty up there and the summers are hot and humid. So here the weather is great. So I've been here for, about 7 years. So.
But you're mainly self-taught, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, my dad bought me a guitar. He was kind of an entertainer. He used to play in downtown Minneapolis, and then he bought me a guitar, and I was left-handed, but he gave me a right-handed guitar, so that was a good thing at the time. There wasn't many of those available, so I just noodled around. I had some bands kind of together in high school, and then I took a lot of lessons from a guy named Jeff Loven, who has actually played on some of my songs. He's an amazing lead guitar player. And then I got into a cover band for 12 years called Jaded Rock Band. And then right near the end, I started to write my first 2 songs because I never could. I don't know what happened. It just kind of opened up. And then the band kind of shut down, and I just all of a sudden exploded into writing 1 song to 2 songs a week. And then I had to learn everything about how to get music done because I didn't really know how do you produce a song. And then so I found a producer and I worked with him for a while, and then I decided he wasn't working, and I found another guy, and I've been working with him ever since. His name is Owen Sartori. He owns F5 Soundhouse in Minneapolis. And so we still work together. And then so in the last probably several years is when I really started producing a lot of my music. And I got connected through one of my music supervisor agents for movie and TV submissions with a Nashville session team ran by a guy named Smith Curry. And Smith Curry has toured with Taylor Swift when she was younger and Kid Rock, and then he's played on 30,000 songs. It's really impressive. And so they said, we'll do your whole song for $400. So you send them a demo, and then they cut you all the drums, bass, guitars, pedal steel, banjo, mandolin, whatever you need, whatever the style is. They can do any style. And so I really have started working with them a lot. They've probably done about 80% of my songs in the last 3 years. And we've got it. They actually, those guys did the music on Beautiful Child, my song that's going to be featured on your other show. So I'm pretty excited working with these guys, and they're like part of my team now. And we do a lot of music. I'm kind of like trying to take a break because I've done so many songs. I've got about 50 songs done. So
now this new single, Beautiful Child, featuring Bianca White. So how did that connection come about?
So, of course, you said I'm an entrepreneur, so I own a telephone company and I sell internet. And I went to an internet kind of a party for all the partners and the resellers. and I met her there. She's an IT salesperson. And they introduced us right away because they knew we were both music people. And then I went and watched her in a karaoke contest after the party, and she blew me away. She sounded and looked and acted like kind of like Ariana Grande. And I was like, wow, we should work together. And she goes, yeah, I need help with my songs. And I said, I'd love to have you sing on some of mine. I've had some other female singers on my songs, but the one I can't get, she's too busy. And the other one is a big artist and she doesn't have a lot of time. And then so I've had Bianca on the last 3 songs that I needed a female to do some harmonies on. And yeah, she's been great. So. You realize your mercy in a faith of all that's good. Teach her to rise above and stay true. No matter what you do, no matter where you go, always be there forever. Beautiful child of mine, spread your wings and fly. Beautiful child of mine, let your dreams take you high. Beautiful child of mine, never give in to this life. Beautiful child of time, let your eyes see the light. Beautiful child of light.
What are some artists that kind of influenced you coming up that kind of helped you kind of formulate your sound?
Well, I was born in '63, so I was raised in the '60s and the '70s, and of course the '80s. Just getting out of high school. Those were the genres I listened to. And I listened to everything. I listened to R&B, pop, funk. I worked at a discotheque, so I listened to disco, and I think it all had an influence on me. I probably listen to music differently, and then so that's, I love Led Zeppelin. I love, the Beatles. I like the Stones. I like, Shaka Khan. I mean, you name it. I'm all over the place, and I like metal. I like country, rock. I wasn't really big into country. And then when I started writing my songs, I decided I needed to challenge myself to see if I could write in other genres. So then I decided maybe I should be a country/southern rock artist. But my one of the agents I'm working with, consultants, he thinks I should stick mainly be rock and then do maybe some southern rock and a little bit of. We're looking at metal country. I don't know if you're familiar with that. That's kind of a new genre, and we're thinking about redoing some of my country songs with more of a metal edge on them. So, but yeah, I definitely am a rocker at heart. Of course, I look like an '80s rocker kind of.
Some of the best music came out of all of those decades, the hits and the things that I'm influenced by those years as well. I'm a keyboard player and vocalist and artist, and we heard all the best songs, so what better inspiration when you're writing, than to have these greats to look up to and listen to, and they're all our teachers.
Right.
So how fun is that?
Right. And so when I had Jaded Rock Band, we started out doing like harder rock, and we were doing a lot of the new bands like Creed, Nickelback, and Puddle of Mud, stuff like that. And then all the bands of Minneapolis started adding a girl, and I'm like, this girl came to our show, and she's like, I said, you want to be in the band? She came up and sang, and then we started doing, Lady Gaga, Katy Perry, Lita Ford, and all sorts of female artists. And then she sang a lot of other guy songs that were really high. And then, so we had a great chemistry, but, writing out all these songs and charting them for me, I just did it my own way, like type out all the lyrics and then put the chords in there. And that's probably what helped me to be able to formulate writing my own music, because I wrote a couple songs and I was stuck. I got one part and I could never get the next part. And then after like 2013, when a bunch of stuff happened, I kind of have a perfect storm of everything went wrong in my life. And then that's when I got the ability to it just started happening. I could write the whole song in 30 minutes, pretty much, So a lot of them I did in 60 minutes, but then it might take, 20, 30 hours to get the melodies and the harmonies the way I want, but I'm not formally trained. I don't know a lot about, chord and structure and all that. I know a lot of music stuff, but I just, it's just kind of a hodgepodge that I've put together. I've got tons of books, I've taken probably about 1,000 hours of lessons, but I just think it was meant to be, and then I was like, wow, these songs are really good. And I didn't know they would be good until I got a couple produced. And then it was like, wow, there is some hope here. And in the first 6 months, have you ever heard of Taxi? Taxi is,
I saw that. That's a company that you're working with, replacement.
well, they're a submission company. And the guy that started, or he's the producer from Crosby, Stills and Nash. He's the one that started that like probably 25 to 27 years ago. And so, yeah, I was on that. So they said that it takes like 8 years to get one hold. And I submitted my first 6 songs and I had 4 holds the first 6 months. Not a
Wow.
big deal, but so I've had about 55 holds between them and my other music supervisor at Song Placement Pros, Ray Hamilton, and then I've had a bunch of holds through Music X-Ray, which ended up kind of falling apart. Now there's a new guy that started up a new one. I think he bought the software and the whole website and he's changed it. And I haven't joined it, but I joined the Music Supervisor Guild because I'm like, a lot of artists don't understand and songwriters that you can make a lot of money if you can get some placements, right? So whether it's a jingle or whether it's a 15-second piece of instrumental or just part of one of your, full on songs, it's so yeah, that's what I've been trying to do as well, besides trying to be an artist. So pretty much want to focus on, you know, doing my music and trying to get, I'm looking at, I may have to put a band together from like Nashville guys. But I don't know how you get on tour. I've got a lot of music. We're starting to shoot videos. I just did that one on Beautiful Child. That's the first one we've done as a full-on video. And I do a lot of reels, but I need to work on video because I guess all these consultants, they think you need to have content, and you got to be able to release it pretty much every week, at least 2 or 3 times a week, and you got to build your audience. So. How's a man supposed to find his way? You lost this world in the darkest way. Can you ever understand its pain? You never found peace again. Take these broken wings up to the sky. Take these broken wings and start to fly. Take these broken wings down to the light. Just roll down the fence and say goodbye.
You're going back to you saying about learning and sometimes sometimes the formal training can maybe sometimes disrupt that natural process that you have, that you're hearing the music in your head, and just being able to translate that through writing and being able to get that out so you can organize it into a song. I'm mainly self-taught. I had a few lessons when I was 7, and then the rest was listening to the radio, listening to records, and hearing all of my music mentors do their thing. We learn by imitation, and then we learn to create, so it's a beautiful process. And just that journey, and then knowing when you've mastered something, and then you always look to improve upon it, and you're always getting better and better all the time. I heard a rumor You got something going on in the coffee business too?
Yeah, I have my Rockstar coffee here.
Is that
Um,
the Rockstar Coffee? Okay, so tell us about it. How did this come about?
um, well, the guy that did the video, he's my coffee roaster, and he's right here in my office building. And so one day I walked in and he had all these Cowboy Max coffee bags. And I'm like, what's this all about? And he's like, he uses our coffee. We make some custom blends for him and he sells it, to his following and website and all that. And I'm like, boy, I should do that. And so finally, a few months ago, we did it. So I had my web guy build a website. I came up with all the marketing and, this picture here, this became kind of that's a picture of me, and then my web guy actually did all that outlining, and that became the actual kind of logo for the coffee, and then they're all named after my songs, and so that's pretty cool. And so we're trying to, I'm trying to just blend myself together because I also have my phone company, which I changed the name to Rockstar VoIP Telephone Company. So I'm trying to be everything together, all music and rockstar stuff.
Yeah, that's what a great way to expand your brand. And people will hear they'll hear that name and then what are they going to think about? They have to think about music. So, one definitely feeds the other. And how fun. We love coffee in our house. I can have it any time of day, hot or cold, doesn't matter. So looking forward to trying some of that. So what's next? What's on the horizon? You've kind of bundled these things together to kind of represent everything that you're working on. You know that the placements and things you're working on that, trying to get TV films, commercials, wherever that your music can find a home as far as on the big screen. What's your overall goal? What are you really striving for right now? What's in the next year? What can we look forward to?
Well, my original goal with music was just to be a songwriter. I didn't have any idea that I could be some kind of a national act, but my goal would be to get a band together. You know, Finding local musicians sometimes is difficult. So, but Smith said I can go to Nashville and they will do a showcase with me, and he knows all the like, what do you call them, the guns for hire, and he knows a lot of musicians that'll play live. But all the guys that work on his session team, which are about 40 guys that have a different one. Usually use 6 guys at each recording session, and they'll do like 10 to 15 songs. None of those guys want to play live, but their one guitarist, boy, I wish I could get him because Nathan Keeterl he is the guy that plays on a lot of my songs, and I try to get the dates when he is actually in. And then I also work with him on my own when I do songs with my producer and me outside the session team. But yeah, I want to play in a band, Jason Seel, rock. I was thinking rock country. First, we thought it might be, Southern country band doing Southern rock and country, but I don't know. We'll see. Either way, I'm gonna, try to get my music going live and see if we can figure that out. But I need to figure out all that stuff with like a promoter and with a booking agent and maybe start regionally. But I'm not sure. That's one of the goals. And the other goal is to get my next CDs worth of music done. It's going to be called Jason Seel Rocks, and it's going to be a compilation of all my best rock songs. And of course, Beautiful Child will be on that CD probably. So but I do have almost enough music for the 4th CD. So, and just keep trying to, get all my administration done because that people don't understand how hard this music business is. I just got into my Song Trust. I started that account. I'm trying to get my Sound Exchange updated. I've got my ASCAP royalty, and I've got the MLC and the Canadian Royal CMRRA. And so I'm trying to make sure I can get all the money. And of course, I use a distributor, DistroKid, to deploy all my songs. I used to be with CD Baby, so that has been a lot of work to switch that over and build spreadsheets and have all your ISRC numbers and just make sure you're tracking everything. And I'm starting to actually get money and royalties from being in streaming, and so we got to work on that more. We're going to build a bunch of content. So we're going to start shooting a lot of video on my songs, full on MTV type videos. And of course, a lot of reels. So hopefully, I can build an audience into past the tens of thousands. I'd love to get into the hundreds of thousands, and maybe go viral. Beautiful Child just might be the song. I'm not sure. We'll see, but
It only takes one.
right, yeah. And then your other,
And I'm glad that you mentioned the business side because we do have a lot of artists that watch this show, that are on this show, young artists that are starting out. Everybody's at different levels of their artistry and their business, and it's so important for them to know that there's so many details and grind and things that have to be done. So I'm glad you mentioned all that because people forget that it's a business and all of the ins and outs that you have to know. It's a lot of work.
yeah, I've been working with the guy just starting, but I've known him for a long time. He knows my music agent, Ray Hamilton, but his name is Johnny Dwinell. He owns Daredevil Productions and he's got a huge podcast. Um, for all, like, they go over everything. But in my talks with him, he said the old model of breaking an artist on the radio and putting out a record and going on tour is gone. You have to break digitally, and he's like an algorithm and just an expert. He's also a musician. He's also a producer. He's got bands that he does in Nashville, but he charges you a flat rate, and he spends a ton of time testing, like reels and all that stuff. And then we try to see which ones are building followers and audience. And he said that's the goal. And he wants to work on your YouTube, your Spotify, your Meta, your TikTok, and all that. I don't need to do it with him. You can do it yourself, but it is a lot of work. And if you have a regular life and a job or kids and a family, it can be, you could spend 10 hours a day just doing that stuff. It's amazing. So.
So with all this stuff going on, the name of the show is called Mental Margarita, and it's about finding your passion, following your dreams, finding your escape, sometimes getting away from it all. So, you have a lot going on. You've got these business ventures that you manage and your products and merchandise, and then you've got your music. What do you do to get away from it all? How do you find center and your kind of inner peace? What's your mental margarita?
Well, I like to go running. I like to work out. I own a speedboat and there's a lot of great reservoirs here. So I try to get out on the boat for a day or the whole weekend and just drive around. There's a beautiful one up on the Colorado, New Mexico border called Navajo that it's 25 miles long. It's got cliffs. So I love to do that kind of stuff. I used to play a lot of sports, but I just, now I just work out and run and try to stay in shape for an old guy. Because I'm kind of getting a late start. I'm 62 years old. Hopefully I don't look it, but I'm trying to stay energetic and keep up with the young people. And so I spend a lot of time, eating right and exercise and all that. So that helps. That's how I can get away. Exercise and boating, pretty much, or just jam.
That's great. And we got to stick around for the ones we love and the things we love. And you're very fortunate that being in the rock scene for so long, there's so many of our brothers and sisters aren't with us anymore. And we have all the information now, so we can be healthy and make better choices and take care of ourselves so that we
Right.
can stick around,
Seen a
do
lot
our
of
best.
YouTube videos lately. I've been watching, what happens to a lot of people in the music business and even other celebrities. It's very interesting because fame can be very challenging for people if you actually get it. And you definitely have to have your head on straight, you know, and you got to make sure you know what you're doing, and you got to be, I think you need to be spiritual, and you need to have the right people helping you, because you don't want to be taken advantage of, and you don't want to fall to all the addictions that can happen to people when they're out there in the music business. So yeah, it's, you know, very important to stay focused and stay healthy and keep your eye on the ball. So
We just focus, we got to be healthy. And that's what we talk a lot about that on our show, because our mental health, our spiritual health, our physical health, we got to take care of all of it. So I'm glad you touched on all of those things, because it's so important to the success we have as it's just as people, and then to be able to be here to carry out our dreams and our passions and our craft, which for you it's obviously music and just and bringing great products to the world. So this is exciting stuff.
yes.
How do you prefer people reach out to you if they want to follow you? Obviously, we're going to make sure the audience knows how to find your website and be able to hear your music. But how do you want people to stay in contact and reach out?
Well, they can hit my website, you know, and then there's my email contact is on there, but it's, you know, jasonseelmusic.com. Pretty easy. It's spelled with two E's, so it's like the animal seal, but with two E's. And then, of course, Facebook or anything on Meta. I'm always on Facebook and Instagram, and I'm starting to get on TikTok. I've got it all set up. I've been trying to do some stuff on there. But yeah, I mean, communication through Messenger or email is always great, you know. So
Wonderful. Well, we're excited to have had you. I'm glad the audience is getting to listen to your music, and we'll keep in touch for these updates, because there's a lot coming down the pipes, I think, that we need to pay attention to. So thank you so much for being on the show, Jason. It's been a great visiting with you and learning a little bit more about what you have going on.
well, thank you for having me. It's been great.